This summer, Mark and I embarked on an unforgettable adventure, cycling the European Divide Trail. Created by Andy Cox, this epic route spans 7,600 kilometers, climbs a staggering 83,000 meters, and takes you through 9 countries from the Arctic to the Atlantic. It's a journey of extremes, unforgettable landscapes, and incredible stories. Join us as we tackle this once-in-a-lifetime challenge. Our trip began with a flight to Kirkenes, Norway. After ensuring our bikes arrived safely, we spent our first night assembling them in a cozy hotel room. The plan for the next day was straightforward: stock up on supplies and cycle to the start of the European Divide Trail. We pedaled 75 kilometers, battling rain and a relentless Arctic wind, to reach Grense Jakobselv, the official start of the trail. The temperature hovered around a chilly 3 to 5 degrees. After a quick coffee and some trail snacks, we pressed on, riding along the Norwegian-Russian border, marked by little more than a narrow river. Military patrols zipped past us on quads, waving cheerfully. That night, we set up camp by a serene lake and prepared for our first full day on the trail. Our first night camping was peaceful but cold, and the next day greeted us with light rain. We packed up quickly, filtering water from a nearby lake and carrying enough for the long stretches ahead. The route alternated between asphalt roads and gravel tracks, taking us past stunning fjords and wide rivers. Along the way, we encountered enthusiastic motorcyclists and even spotted our first reindeer. After a long, wet day, we reached a campsite near the Finnish border, where we indulged in a well-deserved warm meal and enjoyed a moment of luxury: a hot shower. This morning began in a Samilavu, a cozy start before crossing into Finland. It didn't take long to realize we were in a land of endless lakes, sandy beaches, and reindeer sightings. But the beauty came with challenges: constant headwinds, slow inclines, and swarms of mosquitoes that made every stop a battle. Lunch by Lake Inari offered a brief reprieve. Clear blue skies, a scenic view, and filtered lake water to refill our bottles. The afternoon tested us even more. Gravel paths softened, turning into rugged mountain bike trails, and eventually we faced an ankle-deep swamp. After hours of slow progress, we finally reached Inari around 9:30 p.m., exhausted but relieved. The midnight sun shone brightly as we set up camp. Tomorrow, we clean, resupply, and prepare for a long stretch of wilderness. After a sunny night of drying clothes under the midnight sun, we began the day leisurely, strolling through Inari in our stylish water shoes. By midday, we were back on the road, cycling past short birch and pine trees. The weather soaked us yet again, but I remembered a remote hut from a previous trip. Fortune smiled. Though the small cabins were taken, a larger one with a sauna was available. We ended yesterday with a sauna, finally warm and relaxed. Sleep, however, didn't come easily in the bright, mosquito-filled cabin. After a quick breakfast of wraps and coffee, we returned the key to our friendly host, who assured us that bears avoid humans, especially smelly bikepackers like us. The day was all about gravel, with 90% of the route on dirt tracks. Despite sticky mud and steady headwinds, the scenery was stunning. We passed through winter sports areas, husky farms, and miles of empty forests, cycling over at least 5 types of gravel. We crossed a river marking the border. Welcome to Sweden. The campsite was idyllic, set by a wide river with a buffet we eagerly devoured alongside friendly sport fishermen. After breakfast in a traditional fire hut, we set off under clear skies, but rain and wind loomed on the horizon. Not far into the ride, my rear wheel started acting up, a problem with the hub bearings. With no bike shop for 350 kilometers, we made temporary adjustments and cautiously continued. A curious reindeer crossed our path, pausing to inspect us before wandering off. The mosquitoes were relentless, and we learned from locals that you never truly get used to them. Later, my bike made a grinding noise, and the hub seemed completely stuck. With no option but to push through, we reached a small riverside village. Calling a local ferry, we crossed to find incredible hospitality, clear instructions on showers, water, and a campsite near the town hall. We ended the day with warm sausages and the sound of rain tapping on our tent. A restless night of rain and wheel worries led to a plan. A new wheel, thanks to Just Pedal Bike Shop, set to arrive in Gällivare by Wednesday. To get there, we left the trail, opting for roads with cars, narrow shoulders, headwinds, and creaking from the bike's hub tested us the entire way. A sunny stop at a roadside bakery brought a rare moment of peace. By evening, we reached Gällivare, exhausted but relieved the bike had made it. Next up, rest day tomorrow while waiting for the new wheel. We started with a breakfast of kanelbuller on a bench in town, followed by updates on the wheel. It's en route from Stockholm. Lunch was a feast of pancakes, courtesy of Mark in the shared kitchen. The afternoon was spent wandering the mostly closed shopping center, stocking up on dry food and bug repellent. Dinner was simple, burgers and tea back at the campsite. A calm, uneventful day, perfect for recovery. After 24 hours of radio silence, DHL finally delivered our new wheel. A quick test confirmed it fit perfectly. Huge thanks to Just Pedal Bike Shop for the seamless fix. With the bike ready, we packed up, grabbed supplies, and set off at 1 p.m., finally rejoining the EDT route. The day's ride took us through compact gravel, loose sand, and rocky stretches. A sunny stop at a summer cafe lifted our spirits before tackling long climbs and endless gravel roads. Our goal shifted as rain loomed. We pushed on to Jokkmokk, aiming for shelter and a chance to catch the football match. After 150 kilometers of cycling, we rolled into camp, just in time to grab pizza and watch the game, though sadly, the Netherlands lost. We woke to relentless rain and biting cold. After a hearty lunch of pasta, we packed up and braved the downpour. From Jokkmokk, we rejoined the route, immediately soaked as we hit gravel roads. A milestone came as we reached the Arctic Circle sign, marking our journey south after 900 kilometers from the north. The climbs were tough, including one stretch with a grueling 17% gradient, but the descent was slippery fun. Rain turned puddles into ankle-deep pools, requiring careful balance to stay somewhat dry. By 70 kilometers, we'd had enough, setting up camp by a lake. Rain persisted into the evening, so we cooked pasta from the comfort of our sleeping bags. Tomorrow, we hope for better weather. The day began with sunshine. Finally. We dried our gear over tea and set out for another 100 kilometers, aiming to reach a campsite in Arvidsjaur tomorrow. At Kubdalis, a tiny ski village, we hoped to restock. Though the store was closed, a call to the owner brought her over in an impressive 4x4. She whipped up a Sami-style lunch of flatbread with dried reindeer meat and salted butter, a surprisingly tasty treat. The remaining kilometers took us through endless gravel paths, over a shared rail and road bridge, and into the woods. We pitched our tents near the Pietealfsbron, battled swarming mosquitoes, and enjoyed our meatball dinner before retreating to our sleeping bags. Nearby reindeer, including a calf nursing from its mother, made for a peaceful start to the day. The morning took us through the Ravo Nature Reserve, a breathtaking mix of forests, lakes, and mountains. While eagles and bears call this place home, we only saw reindeer. Lunch by a lakeside fire pit in the sunshine was a highlight. The day's final challenge was a brutal climb, a steep, rocky wall that forced us to carry our bikes, battling swarms of mosquitoes and horseflies. The reward? A view we couldn't enjoy due to the relentless insects. Finally, we reached a campsite, where we quickly showered, washed all our clothes, and tackled some repairs. We woke early, sensing a warm day ahead, and started it with a refreshing swim in a still, mirror-like lake. Mark even debuted his new swim trunks. We rode to the supermarket, spotting a dreamy breakfast spot, a pier on the lake with a fountain and ski slopes in the background. Feeling strong, we decided to push on to a shelter closer to Lyksel, aiming to minimize tomorrow's ride in the rain. The shelter was unoccupied, and we set up camp inside, lighting a fire to keep the mosquitoes at bay. Rain started pounding the shelter roof at 6 a.m., but thanks to pitching our tents under cover, everything stayed dry. After packing up and freshening up by the river, we braced ourselves for a day of relentless rain. Within minutes of riding, we were soaked and covered in mud as sticky as peanut butter. The gravel was brutal, making progress slow and exhausting. Completely drenched, we arrived in Lixel and treated ourselves to a room at the campground to dry off and clean up. We began the day early, fueled by a hearty breakfast buffet that made our stay feel practically free. Stocked with supplies, we set out for Osele, 160 kilometers away, knowing it would be a stretch with more climbing than usual. The morning started well, with vibrant wildflowers and taller trees signaling a change in the landscape. But 50 kilometers in, we hit a swampy walking path, marked as part of the trail. Determined to avoid a long detour, we pressed on, trudging through knee-deep water for 5 kilometers. It was grueling and slow, but we emerged with another wild story to tell. Drained from the swamp, we cut the day short and found an idyllic campsite by a lake. A free hut was already occupied by 2 German fishermen, but they welcomed us to pitch our tents nearby. We shared stories, berries, and even a tiny sip of schnapps,